claims of genocide against white South African farmers. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has said that high-level talks are taking place with the US about joining its proposed Golden Dome missile defense system aimed at countering futuristic threats. The China-Pakistan economic corridor is set to be expanded to Afghanistan as per reports, with the foreign ministers of the three countries agreeing on it as part of broader efforts to boost trilateral cooperation. India and the United States may announce an interim trade agreement before the 8th of July, with New Delhi seeking full exemption from the additional 26% tariffs on domestic goods, as per officials. The US Defense Department says it's formally accepted a donated Boeing 747 from Qatar to use as Air Force One. The Gulf nation's offer of the luxury $400 million plane to Donald Trump has received pushback over ethical claims. Our big focus: US President Donald Trump used an Oval Office meeting to confront South Africa's president over baseless claims of genocide against white South African farmers. Trump ordered aides to lower the lights in the room and then play a video purporting to show evidence of violence against white Afrikaans. And the meeting was seen as high risk for Ramaphosa, who was hoping for a reset in relations with Washington, but he survived what could have been a much more serious blow to the country's ties, as per analysts. The testy exchange was reminiscent of the White House showdown between Trump and Ukraine's Zelensky, but Ramaphosa kept his composure, pushed back on Trump's assertions, and repeatedly tried to redirect the conversation to trade, which is what he was there for. Listen in to the reaction we've lined up for you.
What will it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the President. It's, for him, no, seriously.
I'd rather have him answer.
Yeah, I'd rather answer that. It will be.
Our President will respond to you.
Yeah, let me,
Thank you, Mr. President.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us on around a quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me. So it'll take him, President Trump, listening to their stories, to their perspective. That is the answer to your question.
But, Mr. President, I must say that we have, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it.
Sure.
And we have documentaries, we have news stories, and that. Is Natalie here, somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things, and it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would, and turn the lights down. Turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you, Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do.
And those cars aren't driving. They're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who was killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it. Both sides of the road, you have crosses. Those people were all killed.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen. But, okay.
I mean, it's in South Africa. That's
For further clarity on the matter, let's go across to Washington, D.C. Nia Corte joins us live at the moment. He's a White House correspondent. Thanks so much, as always, Nia, for making time for us. This meeting, as I've just pointed out to our viewers here, it sounds eerily similar to Trump's tense encounter with Mr. Zelensky back a few months ago. Are we seeing a pattern here? And also, do we know what prompted Trump to play that video about so-called genocide of white South African farmers?
Well, thank you for inviting me this evening. Look, it was a major risk that the South African president was taking by meeting up with President Trump in the Oval Office. There are a number of South African aides that made very clear that the South African president was trying to avoid a Zelensky sort of moment, a Zelensky type encounter in the Oval Office with President Trump. And, it's very clear that the South African president studied that White House visit, among other visits among heads of state, so as not to fall into some of the same traps. You'll notice the tone of the exchange between the South African president and President Trump maintained a level of cordialness, a level of warmth, a level of respect and deference throughout the meeting. But to your point, the meeting did take a sharp turn when we saw this sort of reset on the ropes. Nobody was expecting President Trump to play that video of what appeared to be a very extremist group in South Africa. But rest assured that the South African president was very clear that there is no white South African genocide that is taking place. And he had folks in the room to back him up.
Yes. Also, was there any discussion on trade or investment, the topics Mr. Ramaphosa reportedly came to Washington for? Or would you say this meeting was hijacked by Trump's narrative?
I think this meeting could have been hijacked by the narrative, but it wasn't. I attended a readout led by the South African president following the meeting with President Trump, and there was some discussion around AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. There was some talk about trade between South Africa and the United States, investments, particularly related to critical minerals, and the effects of this trade war, these tariffs, the effects that they've been having on the South African economy and economies across Africa.
Right.
Some of those conversations were had. Look, I think the reset will not be clear for some time. I think whether or not President Trump decides to attend the G20 summit will be a major indication of whether or not this reset is headed in the right direction.
As always, thank you so much for joining us on NDTV with your views. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Defense Department says it's formally accepted a donated Boeing 747 from Qatar to use as Air Force One. The Gulf nation's offer of the luxury $400 million plane to U.S. President Donald Trump, it's received pushback over ethical concerns, as we have covered on NDTV. In fact, their prime minister defended the gift, saying that the gesture doesn't equate to bribery and is instead a normal thing that happens between allies. The White House aims to have the jet ready by the end of the year, but experts have questioned that timeline. In fact, a former Homeland Security official has said that the plane will need to be literally torn apart to address possible security concerns before it can serve as Air Force One. And with that, let's turn our attention now to Canada, where we are given to understand that Prime Minister Mark Carney has said that high-level talks are taking place with the United States about joining its proposed Golden Dome missile defense system aimed at countering futuristic threats. Maha Siddiqui has been tracking all the finer developments for us. She joins us live from Vancouver at the moment. Maha, so we're given to understand that Canada is now in active discussions with the United States on security, and these talks actually come amid a bruising trade war.
That's correct. And in fact, Parmeshwar, what we understand is that Ottawa's statement also adds a caveat here they say that this is an unresolved part of the trade and security negotiations that are currently underway between President Trump and Prime Minister Mark Carney. What the role of Canada will be in this multi-purpose missile shield that the US is talking about, called the Golden Dome, is unclear at the moment, because Canada is already a participant in NORAD, in which Canada, in fact, feeds in data related to security in the North American skies into the US missile defense system. So this will mark a significant shift in the policy on cooperation in defense between Canada and the United States if it goes ahead and becomes more than a participant in the Golden Dome missile defense system. Now, why I say this is because so far, Canada has only participated with providing information, but not really has been part of a decision in executing any sort of an anti-missile action that it could take at its end. So if at all the Golden Dome is one where Canada becomes a participant now, it will be a shift in its policy on defense cooperation with the United States. We do not know at the moment what the contribution of Canada is exactly going to be in terms of how much it is likely to contribute to the project in terms of the amount that President Trump has put out, saying that it will cost $175 billion US dollars. So what Canada's contribution in that is going to be remains unclear. Also, what Canada's contribution with regards to the other semantics in this entire project are going to be too are unclear. Some have been indicating, like for instance, a former commander of NORAD, that the participation will still be in the form of providing data. But
Right.
At the moment, Ottawa has just left a statement saying that this is part of ongoing discussions between the two sides.
As always, Maha, thank you so much for joining us with the latest information. Moving on to why China is seriously concerned over the US Golden Dome defense system. Well, the Golden Dome project has sparked debate over its potential impact on global security and the risk of an arms race. However, China has expressed serious concerns over the project, with the Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning stating that it carries, and I quote, strong offensive implications and heightens the risk of militarization of outer space and an arms race. In fact, Mao further added, as per reports, that the United States, in pursuing a US-first policy, is obsessed with seeking absolute security for itself, further adding that this violates the principle that the security of all countries should not be compromised and undermines global strategic balance and stability. China has categorically said it is seriously concerned about this development. Switching tracks, what if I told you there's a secret oil fleet crisscrossing our oceans, unseen, untraceable? Well, buckle up, because the EU just blew the lid off what they're calling Putin's shadow fleet, and it's as murky as it sounds. Since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, Western powers have tried to strangle Moscow's war chest by capping oil prices and banning shipments. But guess what? The Kremlin found a way around that. Enter the shadow fleet. These are ghost ships, basically aging tankers that are bought cheap, renamed overnight, and flagged under countries that barely know they exist. So one day it's ship A under Panama, next week it's ship B under Liberia. Their mission? Smuggle sanctioned Russian oil across international waters, quietly funding the war in Ukraine. Here's how it's set to work at the moment. First, the ship turns off its tracking system, then it swaps oil mid-sea, often near Greece or Malaysia, and oil of mysterious origin then arrives safely at its destination. It's dirty, it's dangerous, and highly profitable, and it's not just about the money. In December last year, 2 of these tankers caused one of the worst oil spills in the Black Sea this century. There's even talk of sabotage, some ships possibly linked to attacks on undersea cables in the Baltic. Experts therefore warn that hybrid warfare is no longer science fiction. The EU has now blacklisted over 340 of these vessels. The UK, meanwhile, another 100. NATO stepping up too, launching an operation to protect critical undersea infrastructure. But here's the geopolitical twist. The United States has not joined the sanctions. After a phone call between Putin and President Donald Trump, hopes of a joint Western front sank fast, and analysts are actually asking whether the world should allow rogue fleets to play pirates, all while bankrolling war. And if oceans are the new battleground, who's really in control? Meanwhile, in other crucial news we're tracking on NDTV, India and the United States may announce an interim trade agreement before the 8th of July, with New Delhi seeking full exemption from the additional 26% tariffs on domestic goods, PTI is reporting, quoting US officials. Now, the US on the 2nd of April imposed an additional 26% reciprocal tariff on Indian goods, as you are well aware, but suspended it for 90 days till the 9th of July. However, the 10% baseline tariff imposed by America remains in place, and the government official said India's endeavor to protect its sensitive sectors may entail some quota or minimum import price, and such sectors could include agri-goods and dairy as well. As far as Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is concerned, he was in Washington, as we covered, to give him a bit of a push to the trade talks. He held meetings with the US trade representatives like Jamieson Greer and also the US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. In other news, the Indian government has declared a Pakistani official persona non grata for indulging in activities not keeping in with his official status in India. The Pakistani official has been asked to leave India within 24 hours, and you must note that in diplomacy, persona non grata refers to a foreign official or diplomat who is no longer allowed to stay in the host country, and it's actually the strongest way a country can show disapproval of a foreign representative. Shiv Arur has been tracking all the finer developments for us. He joins us over the phone line at the moment. Shiv, so India has declared a second Pakistani diplomat persona non grata in just 10 days?
That is correct. The second Pakistani official, we understand it's not an officer, but an official who has been declared persona non grata and will have to leave by today. The charge d'affaires of the Pakistan High Commission has been issued a démarche to the effect that this person needs to leave. We are told, and we've been reporting, our team of reporters has gotten information that espionage appears to be the reason for this. Now, remember, obviously, the Pakistan High Commission has been under very strict surveillance ever since the Pahalgam attack actually took place. Lots of communications have been monitored as well. We understand that there is a possibility that more people might be asked to leave. This morning, we've gotten the breaking news that the Pakistan government has, in a copycat measure which was not unexpected, ordered an Indian official from the Indian High Commission in Islamabad to also leave. Presumably, they've been monitoring, activities and communications there as well. So this is likely to continue for a while right now. There's already a pruned strength at both the High Commissions amidst tensions, amidst increasing escalations on the diplomatic level, considering that Indian diplomats are out, Pakistani diplomats are also out. This kind of thing is probably likely to continue. But the seriousness of the reason over which this Pakistani official has been asked to leave is still unclear. But we do have a confirmation that it has to do with espionage.
Shiv, as always, thank you so much for joining us with the latest. And days after India's Taliban outreach, China is huddling with Pakistan and Afghanistan. Well, days after Dr. Jaishankar spoke with Taliban's acting foreign minister, Amir Khan Muttaq, the first ministerial level outreach by India to Afghanistan's Taliban administration, China has now moved swiftly to reorganize and organize a meeting between Islamabad and Kabul. We'll, of course, track the latest for you on that front. Meanwhile, I must also inform you about India's major diplomatic outreach post-Operation Sindoor that began. 2 of the 7 all-party delegations, comprising MPs and former diplomats, have already left to convey India's anti-terrorism stance in the wake of the Pahalgam massacre. And now the delegation, led by DMK MP Kanimuri, will actually cover Spain, Greece, Russia and Latvia. You must note that while Greece and Slovenia are actually non-permanent UNSC members, Russia is a permanent member. Slipping into a quick break for now, back in a moment with much more. Do stay tuned.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora.
Welcome back. Well, US chip exports controls have been a failure. This is what the head of NVIDIA has told a tech forum, as the Chinese government separately slammed US warnings to other countries against using Chinese tech. Joining us live from New York with a quick comment on the matter, Mishi Chaudhry. Thanks so much, as always, Mishi, for making time for us on NDTV. NVIDIA's boss clearly says that US chip export controls are a failure because they spur Chinese development. These comments also come as Beijing has accused the US of protectionism and bullying, right?
Well, the tariff fights, you hear all kind of posturing as well as choices of words, but the impact on business is definitely real. I think it's mostly because since 2022, not only in the Trump administration, but even in the Biden administration, the US government had started to impose export restrictions on high performance AI chips, citing national security concerns at that time. And then they have been tightened over time. And in 2025, what it requires is that NVIDIA now needs to get a license from the US Department of Commerce to export any kind of these chips. Now, that obviously means that they've had to not only suffer from this side because they have to now get licenses. That takes time. That also means expenses. But there are also reciprocal tariffs being imposed from the Chinese. They have, at least per current reports, had to write off around $5.5 billion in inventory. And it's true that Huawei right now is one of the most formidable technology company in the world. It has expanded its ability to not only make chips at home, but also just hardware, software like Harmony OS. It has really made such progress by leaps and bounds that most American companies are now worried about what this means for worldwide distribution and markets.
Well, Mishi, as always, thank you so much for your time and joining us with your critical views. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates.
Sounds good. Thanks.
With that, let's turn our attention to our other big focus on how China is waging a non-conventional war against India. Whether it's drugs, guns, extortions, insurgents, tax fuel, food, cement. Well, NDTV reports from Ground Zero in Nagaland. Take a look at the finer details.
The Pahalgam terror attack, which happened in Kashmir, has seen growing evidence of a Pakistani hand. But experts believe that Pakistan is just a proxy. China's fingerprints appear to be all over this attack. And in fact, China, by all accounts, is expected to engage in non-conventional warfare along the eastern border of the country. Now, this non-conventional warfare is likely to involve armed insurgent groups in Nagaland, like the NSCN-IM and the ZRA. Now, these are groups who have already been armed to the teeth with sophisticated weapons by China. And the eastern border is just waiting for a match.
Officials at high levels tell NDTV that China has a role to play in other northeastern states as well. The seeds of the Manipur violence 2 years ago were also sown by Beijing. The aim? Damage the northeastern states socially and economically by pushing narcotics and by backing and funding armed insurgents. The NSCN-IM and the ZRA are involved in a plethora of extortion cases. NDTV exclusively accessed a copy of the budget of the NSCN-IM for the year 2024-25. According to the documents, this armed group plans to raise over 158 crore rupees in what they call sovereignty tax, a fancy term for extortion. Everything from food items to fuel to construction material is allowed only if money is paid to the group. A former civil servant told NDTV that insurgency led to the rise of many factions of insurgent groups, and they are going out and taxing people without providing any reason. The Assam Rifles and the local police have repeatedly attempted to stop the unending extortion. But that hardly acts as a deterrent, as these insurgent groups are flush with Chinese funds and arms, and they recruit more youth. Violence is the norm as a result. China exerts its influence further east as well by funding and supporting Myanmar's military junta. The junta in turn hire Nagaland and Manipur-based armed insurgent groups like the NSCN-IM and ZRA to manage poppy fields and fight on their behalf. According to highly placed sources, these insurgent groups have been steered by China for many years. Their objective is to destabilize the northeast and make the Indian population suffer.
The people of Nagaland are fed up. They are fed up of the extortion, they are fed up of the drugs, and they want their lives to get better. They want more job opportunities for the people, for their children, and they want to live in an atmosphere free of fear. And this is something that only the government and the armed forces can deliver. Sandhya Ravishankar in Dimapur for NDTV.
Thank you for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, we'll keep tracking the latest updates for you. Do stay tuned.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello and good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Show. I'm Radhika Ramaswamy joining you from Mumbai studios. We also have Divya Vadwa joining us from Delhi. Divya, 1 month since the Pahalgam attacks, India has given a strong and befitting reply to those behind the violence. And as part of India's global campaign against terror, first batch of MPs have reached their destination.
That's right. Of course, the first batch of MPs, one batch has gone to, the UAE. The other batch, of course, today is going to be going to Russia, headed by Kanimuri. We also have Prime Minister Modi, who will be in Bikaner today. He is expected to visit the airbase, and also Donald Trump confronting the South African president of face-off over the white genocide claim, and also Aishwarya Rai making a splash with her red sindoor at the red carpet at the Confronts Festival. We'll get you all that, but first, let's get you the headlines. It's been a month since the Delhi Pahalgam terror attack, which claimed 26 innocent lives. India gave a befitting reply to Pakistan by launching Operation Sindoor, with Prime Minister's message that's loud and clear when it comes to Pakistan, and also the new normal of zero tolerance policy when it comes to India. Now, NDTV gets your ground report from Pahalgam. We'll get you all the details of what's happening in Pahalgam, but also more coming up on the show.
India's global outreach on Operation Sindoor. First set of MP delegations reach Japan and UAE to raise heat on Pakistan for its support for cross-border terror.
Prime Minister Modi is going to be visiting Rajasthan in a major infra push. The Prime Minister to lay foundation stone for developing projects worth 26,000 crore rupees. He is also expected to rally close to the India-Pakistan border. We're expecting a visit of the Prime Minister. He is expected to be at the airbase in Bikaner as well.
And a shocker from IT city Bengaluru. Women secretly filmed on a Bengaluru metro privacy breach shocks the city. An FIR has been registered.
And let's just also get you Donald Trump over there confronting the president of South Africa, face-off over the white genocide claim that's been made.
Listening to their stories, to their perspective. That is the answer to your question.
But, Mr. President, I must say that we have, we have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have